We spent the last 9 days sailing just over 600 miles, our slowest sail to date with barely any wind. It felt like we were part of an ocean trance, moving ever so slowly toward our destination. But we finally made it to Suwarrow, a national park, part of the Cook Islands, and the most remote atoll we've visited yet. Exploring this secluded paradise has been a long-awaited dream of ours, and we had high expectations for endless snorkeling, long walks on the beach, and trading stories with the two rangers who lived here. But the sea has a way of upending even the best laid plans, which is why sailors always say, "Our plans are written in the sand at low tide." We just did a little bit of work this morning, and now we're gonna go check out the snorkeling here. The water is super clear, so we're hoping we have some good visibility and we see some pretty cool stuff. But we just heard on the radio that there's another boat coming in here, so it sounds like we're gonna have some company for the next couple days, which will be nice. Maybe we can do like a beach fire or something here with the rangers. So,
let's go swimming!
Let's go swimming! We could not wait to see what this remote paradise had in store for us. There were no airports, no cars, no stores or restaurants for hundreds of miles in any direction. The only things around were the two park rangers, thousands of birds, occasionally a sailboat passing through, and the raw beauty of the Pacific Ocean. I caught a glimpse of what I thought was a cool jellyfish, but was disappointed to find it was just some plastic trash. I tucked it in my suit to dispose of back at the boat. We spent our day swimming around, looking at the wide variety of marine life who call this little atoll home. We felt so privileged to be snorkeling in a spot that very few get to experience. We decided to call it a day, but on our way back to the dinghy, Gary spotted something splashing just off in the distance. I hurried over and was in absolute shock when I put my face below the surface and came face to face with a pair of humpback whales. When I made eye contact with the calf, I wondered if I was the first human this baby whale has ever seen. I felt a connection to the ocean I have never felt before, and for that brief moment, everything in the world was right. But next it was time for me to drive the dinghy so Gary could jump in and have a look at these majestic creatures. Clearly, they were just as curious about us as we were about them. What just happened?
We just got to see a mom and a calf humpback whale. They're in Suwarrow. I got to swim with them real quick. We were just out snorkeling and they swam right by.
Wow,
so cool.
So cool. We don't want to keep disturbing them, but they like swam right by us, so wow, it's amazing. We don't want to chase them, but I want to swim with them again. This is why we sailed so far to get here.
Whoa!
Whoa, look at that tail. It's often said sailing brings the highest of highs and lowest of lows. The days that followed certainly fell into the low category, but it seemed like a pretty fair trade with nature for the incredible moment we experienced the day before.
I don't know if we've mentioned it yet, but our water maker has been giving us a lot of trouble for the past few months, and it finally has completely stopped working, I think. I've pulled it out quite a few times. I've replaced all the seals in the pump. I cleaned out the motor, serviced the motor. The carbon brushes seem to be stuck, but I don't have any spares, so I didn't get too aggressive with it last time, but now that the motor has completely stopped spinning and the pump is no longer running, I'm gonna pull it out one last time and give it everything I've got to see if I can get it running again, because otherwise we are without a water maker for the next 2 months or so. We were able to fill up our tanks in Bora Bora at the public dock, and that's been great. We're pretty conservative on water usage now that we know the water maker isn't working. I'm hoping that we can get it replaced in New Zealand, because life without a water maker is a lot more inconvenient, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Right now, I'm gonna pull it out and see what I can do. Well, I've got our water maker all disassembled and it's not looking so great. So the way this is supposed to work is we have this electric motor here and it spins freely. So that tells me that the bearings inside the motor are okay. And it turns this output shaft here, and this output shaft is not looking too good. It's sheared off and the part that holds the key in place is broken off. So it's definitely not looking good. But I noticed this last time I had the part, and it still ran for a few hours like this, because the broken pieces, when they're all put together, they can't really go anywhere. So it was still working, but that output shaft goes into this reciprocating converter here. And basically as this spins, the piston here goes in and out. So it converts this rotary motion to this linear motion, which in turn drives a piston, a high pressure water piston pump inside of this. This I think is okay. This is certainly a problem, but this motor's been stalling and stopping. Some of that could be just the added friction and problems associated with this sheared off shaft and pin here. But I also think there's a problem with the brushes. So we hooked this motor straight up to power without any of the pump connected to it, and the motor didn't spin until I whacked it with a mallet. And on. And off. On. Off. So the brushes are inside of here and they're supposed to move up and down freely. And they've got these springs that push them up and down. I'm going to take this motor all apart and see if I can't get the brushes loosened up and working properly.
How is it working in this anchorage? It seems like it's a little bouncy right now.
It's better than being offshore.
100%.
At least nothing's flying off the counter at me.
Definitely.
So I took the motor all apart and got to these carbon brushes. These brushes are what connects the electricity to the spinning part of the motor. And they're supposed to slide in these little pockets here, slide in and out, and there's little spring clips that keep them pushed in against that spinning rotor. And unfortunately, these brushes are just seized in place. I've tried penetrating oil, I've tried heat, and I've tried tapping on them to get them free, but they're just chipping apart. So I don't have spare brushes to replace them with, so I think that this is game over for the water maker, which we kind of suspected anyway. But maybe when we get to Samoa, I'll be able to find spare brushes and make it work again. But it's definitely on its last legs as it is, with the sheared shaft and a whole bunch of other little issues.
Bummer.
Might be a water maker funeral. This unit is, I think, about 20 years old now.
Wow. What kind of unit is it?
20? No, maybe about 15 years old, I think.
Mm-hmm. And
I'll
it's
have
a
to check the logbook.
Catadine.
It's a Catadine 160E, which is no longer made. They don't sell the service kits for it anymore, so I can't even get the seal kits and service it properly. So it's probably time to move on anyway.
We still have lots of miles to go, though, before we can get a water maker.
Yeah. We'll have to make do until New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
Such is life. I don't think this could have gave out any more remote place in the world. But that's the life of a sailor.
Yeah, luckily we have 150 gallons.
Yeah, our tanks hold 150 gallons, and that's good for a couple months for us now that we know we don't have any way to replenish it until we get to a dock in Samoa. That'll last us.
Maybe it'll rain some too. We can collect some rainwater.
And we'll always be able to collect rainwater.
After a full day of troubleshooting our water maker, we wanted to go for another snorkel to see if we could spot any whales, but the weather forecast had a different type of snorkeling mission in mind. Strong winds and rain were expected for the next several days. We set off in the dinghy to see if we could find a spot with fewer rocks, less coral bommies, and more sand.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if there's anywhere here that doesn't have little bommies, right?
Yeah. In Suwarrow, you are only allowed to anchor in a specific area, and unfortunately, we did not find a better spot. A couple more boats dropped anchor since our arrival, and we decided to say hello, and Gary asked if they'd like him to drop in to check if their anchors were securely set in sand. With everyone feeling as safe and secure as possible, we went back to One Life to hunker down for the next few days. Another beautiful day.
As the wind and the waves grew, One Life began to pitch violently up and down. We could feel and hear that our anchor chain was grinding on rocks, so I prepared my dive gear to go down and check it out. As I descended, the problem that we suspected came right into view. I had instructed Brooke to run the engine at idle in forward gear, easing the tension on the chain. This allowed me to carefully move the chain out from under the rock. I sent a flotation marker up to the surface to let Brooke know that she could take the engine out of gear. With the strong winds and constant wind direction, I hoped the chain would now stay clear of this rock, but I would keep the dive gear set up and ready just in case. We had one nice day here in Suwarrow before the winds picked up, and it's been blowing 25 most of today and gusting up to the mid-30s. So the anchorage here is really deep. We're anchored in about 70 feet. Some of the other boats are anchored in as much as 85 feet. And the problem with the anchorage is there are little bommies, little old coral heads on the bottom everywhere. There's really no area with like just sand to drop the anchor in. So we've dropped our anchor in a patch of sand and the anchor's dug into the sand there. But the problem is the chain, because you have to lay out so much chain because it's so deep. So we have 275 feet of chain out. And the chain where it runs along the bottom will rub on the rocks and sometimes wrap around rocks. So we can hear it rubbing. So I went in with a tank real quick just to go down and check it and make sure we weren't like badly snagged on a rock, because what can happen is if you get snagged, when a wave lifts the boat up, the chain won't stretch at all. So it can actually pop and snap the chain or rip cleats off the deck, cause a lot of damage, and send you free maybe back into the reef behind you. So being a little extra precautious and just double checking things. we can feel the chain just kind of rubbing on the rocks, but it's actually not rough or like wrapped badly around anything. It's just as it comes past them, it occasionally rubs on them, so that's okay. That's why we have all chain rode. One of our neighbors actually put out a secondary anchor yesterday, and he just had a short section of chain and then rope, and that rope chafed on a bommy and broke within a few hours. So luckily that was just his secondary anchor that he was trying to put out. But yeah, not very pleasant. There's really no wind protection from the direction it's coming from, and it's expected to blow for another day, maybe 2 days. It's been nasty all week. It's been blowing like 15 to 25 for the last 3 or 4 days, so we haven't really gone anywhere or done anything. We've just been bouncing around on the boat. This is the reality of cruising sometimes. Just get stuck on board.
It's just not letting up.
I'm gonna. Got 2 more days of this.
2 more days.
It's worse than a tropical storm or hurricane. It's 2 days of tropical storm force winds.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely felt more comfortable when we were in Mexico riding out Hurricane K, because we weren't in the middle of nowhere. There was a marina and resources near us if anything went wrong. And there wasn't coral reef right behind us.
Yeah. Feeling on edge. Sleepless night. It seems pretty calm when you're inside the enclosure, but going outside is nasty.
How do you feel about doing anchor watches tonight?
Anchor watches? Yeah, it might be a good idea. It's nasty out.
Yeah, I mean, there's reef behind us, and if we're asleep by the time the anchor alarm wakes us up, it's going to be too late. Any of these boats, like by the time they wake up, it's going to be too late.
Yeah. Recently, I watched a video where another YouTube, it's like a power boater, I guess, that like sailboat channels are just, they're so dramatic and there's so much clickbait, and it's, you know, girls crying and bikinis and just drama all of the time, and they just like want to see the reality of sailing. But you know, some people might say that this is being dramatic, right? Like, we're in this anchorage and there's reef behind us and it's blowing 30 knots, but the reality is that we're hanging on just with our anchor and we're putting so much trust in it holding, and something can go wrong in a matter of an instant. And we're in a place with no facilities, no help nearby or anything. I mean, there's other boats here in the anchorage, of course, that, you know, are always willing to help each other, but it's pretty scary feeling just knowing that, you know, things can go wrong so quickly. And for the people who are just like watching from their safety of their couch, it's a lot different out here a lot of times. And you can say that this is drama, but this is the reality of the life that we choose to live. And yeah, it's going to be a sleepless night. I'm feeling super anxious, a bit stressed. And I mean, this has been going on for, you know, a couple days now. I think tonight is supposed to be the worst of it. But I think last night I probably slept like 2 or 3 hours. I guess we're going to do anchor watches tonight and things, but yeah, you know, it's not cozy feeling when your home's surrounded by reef and so many things can go wrong. So hopefully we'll have a restful evening with no drama and all of the other boats and their anchors will hold fine as well, and we'll wake up in the morning and everything will be fine. So last night we did anchor watches. Gary actually slept in the cockpit all night. And yeah, it got pretty windy. The most wind we saw, I think, was like gust up to 46 knots. But it looks like today we have another whole round of the same thing. So we'll probably do anchor watches again tonight, but I'll just hang out on the boat all day. It's like what we've been doing, just hanging out on the boat. After multiple days of being tossed around by wind and waves, we were beginning to feel quite defeated. But all we could do was sit tight and ride it out.
About 2 a.m. and I just went up on deck to check our bridle and saw that one of our bridle legs had snapped right in half. So our bridle's only half attached now. It's still holding us, but we've got to figure out how to get that off and change it. We don't have a spare bridle made up or anything, so I'm gonna have to rig something together here. That will run out the brakes, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Seems when these things happen, they always happen in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. I just want the wind to stop. Just ease up some would be amazing.
How you feeling this morning? Yeah, just rubbing your eyes.
Oh, not good.
So last night, one leg of our anchor bridle broke. There's a little metal plate that grabs onto the chain, and there's 2 legs of rope that go down to that. One of them snapped, but the other one's holding on. So last night I went up and tied a backup snubber. Another sleepless night. I don't even know when the last time we had a good night's sleep was. We spent like 10 days in my PD waiting for weather to get out of there, and then 9 days sailing to here, and then we had like one nice day here to swim with the whales and do some snorkeling.
One life, Dakota.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hey, we're good. How are you guys? I saw you up last night.
Yeah, half of our snubber broke loose around 2 a.m.
Oh, horrible. I saw you guys. I thought I'd call you on the radio if you need some help, but I thought you could manage it.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. We got a emergency snubber on, and yeah, we're doing okay. Suwarrow Park Rangers, this is One Life. Wondering if we could come to shore today to check out.
Yep, you can come in.
Since Suwarrow is a national park, a recreational sailboat is only allowed to stay for 10 days. Despite not having the experience we hoped for, we needed to catch the next weather window to move on. But this island has so much history, we couldn't leave without taking a quick walk around. Suwarrow became famous largely due to Tom Neal, a New Zealander who documented his life of solitude living on this atoll in his book An Island to Oneself. He lived here for several years in the 1950s and 60s, embracing a self-sufficient lifestyle. His story of adventure, survival, and the beauty of an uninhabited island captivated readers worldwide and brought significant attention to Suwarrow, making it a symbol of remote, idyllic living. Tom Neal's life here on Suwarrow is commemorated by this statue. He found solitude and adventure here, living off the land and sea, much like the rangers who call this place home today. His days were filled with fishing, gardening, and exploring. Tom stayed on this island off and on for 15 years until 1977, when stomach cancer forced his return to Rarotonga. Although we aren't sure what part of the shelter was original to Tom's island hut, it was fascinating to take a look around. The island caregivers are responsible for protecting and managing the environment and wildlife of this island. They also act as immigration and biosecurity officers for visiting sailboats who pay a $50 fee to anchor in the lagoon. The rangers have a rain collection system with a couple large tanks for freshwater storage, a newer shelter where they complete the check-in process, complete with a small cooking area and living space. They also maintain a pretty large garden, which provides them with fresh fruit and vegetables, and they have this boat to catch fresh fish during their stay. Just like Tom, the rangers here continue his legacy, embracing the challenges and beauty of island life.
Well, we're finally on shore here in Suwarrow. It's been a hell of a week, but the wind is starting to subside. We only have about 20, gusting to 25 now. So we're here and we're gonna check out. Unfortunately, we didn't get the full Suwarrow experience that we were hoping for. We really didn't get to spend any time with the rangers or much time on the island, but we're still really fortunate to be able to stop here since you can only get here by boat. And we also had the really magical whale experience, so that was really cool. But we're headed 500 miles to Samoa, and we're super excited because we're gonna be picking up a crew member. Her name is Hannah, and she doesn't know just how how excited we are to have her. After the past month, with just Gary and I, we're kind of worn down a bit, so it'll be nice to have an extra set of hands on board. But we're either going to leave tonight before the sun goes down or first thing tomorrow morning. The sea state is still pretty kicked up from the front that came through. There's like 12-foot waves predicted tonight. So we might wait until they settle down a little bit tomorrow. I think tomorrow it's like 3 meters. So might be a little bit more comfortable.
We proceeded with our checkout process and left Harry and Tina with some wine and other goodies. It's been real, Suwarrow. Thanks for having us, and thanks to all of you for coming along with us on this journey. Cheers, everyone. We will see you next time as we sail to Samoa.